I guess we could call this one the bonus video. What I'd like to do is give some last words for exam takers. At this point in the series, I have gone out and taken every single one of the exams that Cisco has created for their CCENT and CCNA certifications, just so I could see what was on them and make sure that everything that I'm talking about in this series is preparing you not only for the real world, but to pass these certification exams as well. So the first words of advice that I have, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the series, but I'm sure you forgot by now. In the very first video, I'd like to go back, it's the very first video of the series, and check out the section on preparing to take the exam. Kind of goes through what I would suggest are some best practices when you're getting ready to go into that exam environment and take the test. Kind of strategies to study and strategies to kind of mellow yourself out before you get into that test, because it's nerve-wracking. Now, the first thing that I will say before I talk about the exam specifics is, number one, I do not believe in brain dumps, meaning I'm not going to come out of the exam and say, oh, question number 5 was brutal. It was on setting up a subnet, and you're going to get these addresses, and you're going to have this subnet mask, so be prepared for that subnet mask. I don't like doing that because not only does it devalue your certification, it kind of devalues you in the sense that it's saying, well, you don't have the skills to pass the exam on your own, so here's the questions that you'll need to memorize. So I really like just preparing you for the strategies that you'll need to know and kind of more of a general sense of what the exam is going to be like. So with that in mind, let me walk through these one by one. ICND 1, I was blown away by how tough that exam was. And I guess I can say that for all 3 of these tests. These tests are tough. I'm not going to call them weed out exams, kind of like you had in college, but you really need to know what you're doing before you get into these exam environments, because let me just give you a bit of reality for me. I kind of walked into these exams, kicked my chair back. I was leaning back on there, propped my foot up on the computer. They had it sitting right there, and I was like, all right, I'm just ready to kind of click through these answers. And by about question number 3, I put my chair down. I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I need to focus on this. Here I am, the CCIE, who's gone through every Cisco certification that exists all the way to the end. And I'm thinking, man, like the thought crossed my mind, what if I don't pass this exam? Seriously, that thought crossed my mind. I did pass the exam. I did very well. So I don't mean to undermine my own confidence, but it's tough. It's a tough exam. So on ICND 1, what I will say is be prepared for subnetting. Be a master of subnetting. Go through those videos I did on subnetting many times. I had many questions. I'd say 15 questions minimum that were either directly or indirectly related to subnetting, to where you are required to reverse engineer subnets to figure out the answer to a problem. Or you might be assigning IP addresses in a simulation, and it says, well, you need to figure out these subnets before you can assign this IP address to know which IP address to assign. A lot of subnetting were on there. And I guess the general feel I got from the exam when I finished it is you really got to know this stuff. You got to know how networks work, as in SimCity. A lot of simulations where if you didn't know how to actually do this, you're not going to pass the exam. So that was my general feeling from ICND 1. A lot of foundations on how packets are when they're sent, like what's in the header, what is it in a header, all of that kind of stuff, just the foundations of how networks work.